Ladies and gentlemen, this is very bad news that the chief of staff of the Israeli army has just announced to his people. A very, very bad piece of news. Yes, and an admission as well. Yes, the Israelis who were hoping that this situation could end as soon as possible because they themselves are fed up with it. On this evening of the 28th of June, 2025, are in a state of panic that has no name. Some are in tears. Yes, after the speech by the Chief of the General Staff of the Armed Forces, the Chief of the General Staff of the Armed Forces admitted a fact. And that fact is the complexity of the situation they have gotten themselves into. He says that this is one of the most complex undertakings in any case, one of the most complex challenges in the history of Israel. Never before have they faced a situation like this. And finally, he tries to justify why they struck Iran by surprise, and he informs the public that this will continue for a very long time, and he calls this war a campaign, the campaign that has been launched against Iran. So, ladies and gentlemen, what exactly did he say? And what could be the implications of his statement? That's what we're going to talk about right now. But before we continue, I ask you to share the video conference as much as possible. Give it lots of likes. Don't forget to click subscribe. The gentleman you see here is the chief of staff. What's his name again? It's Lieutenant General Yarzami. Yarzami made the statement this Friday, the 20th of June, 2025. He says that Israelis must prepare for a prolonged campaign. Israelis must prepare for a prolonged campaign against Iran in order to eliminate a threat of this magnitude. What does he mean by a prolonged campaign here? Is this war? The Israelis are already fed up. So he says this. It was in a video statement that Zami declared that Iran had been developing a clear plan for years to destroy the state of Israel. So now they are playing the victim, saying that for years Iran had been preparing a very clear program to destroy Israel. So they know this and they went ahead and attacked. What they were looking for there is now coming to pass. He continues, and for him, this plan had reached the point of no return. Its capabilities had reached their operational level. So Iran's capabilities have reached their operational level. He justifies that Iran had been preparing for a long time. This is an admission that Iran had been preparing for years to destroy Israel, and that the level of preparation had reached its peak. So Iran should be operational. He continues. He says, we launched the campaign when Iran had about 2,500 surface-to-surface missiles. Yes, with a high production rate. He himself acknowledges this. When they launched a new one, Iran only had 2,500 missiles. So they calculated based on that. And what Iran has already launched is so much. And so it says that Iran has such a high missile production capacity that in 2 years, Iran could have 8,000 missiles. He's the one saying this. Zami also stated that Iran's efforts regarding ballistic missiles, its proxies in the Middle East, and its nuclear advancements, he says, forced us to strike and deliver a preemptive blow. Here, he's justifying. What is he saying? He says, Iran's efforts in ballistic missiles, Iran's proxies in the Middle East, and its nuclear advancements, that's what pushed Israel to strike Iran. Because Iran is making progress on the nuclear front, because Iran is producing a lot of missiles, they became jealous. It's not going to say it's not out of fear. Iran is producing. Did Iran provoke you? Those nuclear weapons, the goal is deterrence. It's pure and simple deterrence. It's to deter. To say, you shouldn't touch me. If you touch me, I'll do something bad to you. Iran was there, quietly in its own corner. So Zami continued in his statement. He said that the Israeli army will not stand idly by and watch the weapons being developed. So While Iran is developing its weapons, they won't just stand by and do nothing. They have to bomb so that Iran stops. But who are they exactly? Who gave them the mandate? Was it the UN that tasked them with monitoring Israel? At least that's Iran. And now, here we are facing the situation. They wanted to monitor and stop Iran, but now it's Iran that's stopping them. Their cities are being destroyed. Civilians who have nothing to do with their governance affairs are being sent to their eternal rest. The chief of staff, he keeps going. Yes. He says, as part of an emerging doctrine, we will act proactively and preventively to prevent any existential threat and meet all the challenges they will take on. Now, he continues. He says, if we had delayed, we would have risked losing these conditions. He says that the Israeli army has been preparing for this operation for years. So those on the other side, they've been preparing for years. Despite that, they are lacking ammunition. They've been preparing for years. He says, and that the operation was launched thanks to the convergence of operational and strategic conditions. He says, if we had delayed, we would have risked losing these conditions and entering the campaign in the future from a clearly disadvantageous position. All right. So conditions were in place for them to enter the campaign, the war, from an advantageous position. That's how we see it. That's what an advantageous position is. Now, if they were in a disadvantageous position, what would that have been like? So it continues. It says, if we had delayed, we would have risked it. There you go. He says, we understood that history would not forgive us if we did not act now to defend the existence of the Jewish people in the state of Israel. So here are some of the statements he makes. And he does acknowledge that this is one of the military operations. What did he say? That it is one of the most complex military operations in Israel's history. He says this to the people. He says, we are preparing for a series of possible events. We have embarked on the most complex campaign in our history. We launched this campaign to eliminate a threat of this magnitude against an enemy like this, which requires preparation for a prolonged campaign. So he is clearly telling his fellow citizens to prepare for a long war. He uses the word campaign instead of war. For them, they are conducting a campaign like this. I'm telling you, it's not easy. Ladies and gentlemen, here is the main part of the statement from the Chief of Staff of the Israeli Armed Forces. Thank you for sharing the video as much as possible. I'll be back with more news shortly. This was the voice of your one and only samurai.